Hey everybody, this is Sheets, and I'd like to introduce as a guest pro John Van Fleet, otherwise known as Apestyles from PokerStars and all the other sites. He got second in the Sunday Million a couple months ago, and we've been on him to get this video done, and he's working on it, and I think the first couple of parts of it are done now. So we're going to introduce him as our guest pro. We've known him, Bax and I have known him for quite some time, and he's an excellent, excellent multi-table player. I have him ranked very, very highly in my pro poll, and I'm sure that Bax has the same. He has a very controlled style of play. Not to say that he's tight, but he's very, very difficult to get chips from. He is one player of very few, who I have a very, very difficult time with when I'm playing in a multi. There's probably about 5 or 6 players who literally I know for sure I have a losing equity against in multi-table tournament hands, and Apestyles is one of them. So you'll be well served to listen to what he has to say. And with that, I will introduce Apestyles.
Hi, this is Apestyles recording my Sunday Million Guaranteed second place finish for $135,000 for PokerXFactor.com. And let's get started. There are a lot of different ways to play in the beginning. Some players like to play a little looser to scoop up the dead money, since the fields and the Sunday Million are a lot looser and weaker than the fields we're used to playing, since there are a lot of satellites. I tend to play pretty solid, especially in the beginning, because I have no real read on the table. I don't know any of the players here. Pretty standard. I raise king, queen on the button 3 times big blind. I kind of like to get a good idea of the rest of the table and how they're playing before I really make any moves or even start raising speculative hands in position. So we'll probably check out a couple pots in the beginning. Yeah, pretty much typical Sunday Million play here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and from that one hand, because he's raising queen 4 early, I'm on the button, but he's raising early in the tournament, I'm going to go ahead and assume that he's a donkey. I don't usually limp this hand very often. I don't usually limp, really, but it seems like the table is loose and paying off, so I figure my post-flop advantage is good enough to maybe see a couple flops for cheap. In general, I come in raising in position, though. Maybe we'll speed things up a little bit. I go ahead and fold ace-10 there. Many people wouldn't, but it seems to me like a trouble hand early, especially in that position. There's really no point in playing it. Yeah, I would have flopped 2 pair on a dangerous board, whatever. Okay, it looks like player 6 is in every hand. So I'm going to go ahead and call him loose, passive calling station. I guess you can't make huge assumptions about players this early in the tournament, but they're making... You can assume a lot of these things. Okay, now we got a raise out of position by player 2. And surprise, it folded around and walked with ace-3. So I'm going to speed things up a little bit here. As usual, loose passive calling stations in the hand. Notice I didn't even complete the big blind. I don't like to play hands out of position. Another hand with the calling station. It looks like Donkey just found the button, basically. Just discovered it. Oh, wow. Now, that's funny. He raised Queen 4 last time. This time he had Ace-Ace. I may have to reevaluate what I'm calling this person. We've got a 4Xer, player 2, likes 4 times big blind early. Nothing particularly wrong with that. Calling station and Donkey in another hand. Surprise, surprise. Wow. That's a really big raise by the calling station. He's definitely an inexperienced player. Experienced players don't play like that. Now I'm going to slow it down since it looks like this is a big pot here. Oh, hi. Okay, let's take this a little slower. Actually seems fairly standard. I bet out rather than check raise. There was actually let's go back here and slow the hand down a little bit. It looks like a pretty standard play. Some players try to get tricky and check call, but there's a flush draw on the board, and these guys seem to pay off anyway. So why not just bet out? Also, people don't really respect the small blind betting out very much. Another bet, even with the spade, and another bet with the 4 straight. I think I played that hand well. I think I got value on all streets rather than slowing down like some players might. I also think check calling ends up. Sometimes you get outdrawn, don't know where you are with scare cards, and a lot of times you don't get enough money in the pot when you play sneaky or whatever. There's only certain spots where I really think that trapping players works. It's not something I like to do in multi-way pots all that often, unless it's a bunch of tricky players that I need to switch my game up with. But these guys really aren't very tricky. The player 9, I did note that he limped with 10s, which I probably wouldn't do. I would be raising with 10s. Okay, let's speed up the video now here. Oh wait, here's another pot with me, so I'll slow it down. I noticed that he limped and that he was a rather weak player, so I raised with King Jack here. I just called his little blocking bet. I'm worried that he has a hand like Queen King or something of that nature. Perhaps I could have raised on the river, but I tend to go for pot control early. I don't try to make big pots with hands that are easily dominated like King Jack. I mainly raise that hand to isolate the weak player and to play a pot in position. Player 9 seems to like to just call down with hands, not do much re-raising, so I thought I would try to take him to... I actually probably could have taken him to Value Town a little better than I did. Things going well so far, though. Donkey's raised a billion times now. Some people may be asking, how come you folded the ace-10, but you raised the king-jack suited? Number one, because I tend to play king-jack suited in that spot like a suited connector. Also because I had position in that hand, and because I'm not going to go broke with top pair with the king jack suited this early, and you can also make quite a few straights and other hands. Ace 10 is a very easy hand to lose a lot on an ace high flop, and if it was suited, I probably would have played it since there are more options there. New blind level. This is different for me. A lot of the times I'll raise the sevens here, but calling is fine. I'd say that's a reasonable flop. I raised about, 4 times his bet, and won the pot. But it was a pretty dangerous flop. I would have clearly gone broke with that hand early, and was disappointed that I didn't get action. I think with a big raise, I might have wanted to represent like a flush draw or something like not as strong as the hand that I had. Okay, player 8. This hand is very interesting. Player 8 has not played a hand since sitting down. I have I used the program. Oh, and he shows queens. I actually really like this hand because I use the program Poker Tracker and Poker Ace, and it has how often all the players that are around me are raising pre-flop, seeing flops, how aggressive they are post-flop. It has it right on the screen, and I would recommend that, especially for cash game players. It had player 8 is not playing a single hand after 30-something hands, and so when I raised under the gun, and he made a fairly small re-raise, I knew that he pretty much had to have a bigger pair than I had, and I called for set odds because I figured that he had a big pair and was going to go broke if I hit a set. But notice that I check folded an overpair on this flop because his range was basically ace king and jacks are better, and I knew my eights were no good here, and he shows his queens. So I was fairly happy with that play, as a lot of people will lose a little more than I did in this spot. Not a lot going on here. I'm definitely watching the table while I play, but I also, like I said, have a poker tracker sort of watching people's tendencies for me, which it really helps when it comes to decisions. But it's no substitute for your own observations about betting patterns and the like. Okay, I believe Donkey just three-barreled with a pair of queens there. But loose calling station never even re-raised pre-flop or anything like that. So they're definitely playing as I expected. I believe that the following player is fairly strong. Okay, I checked this flop because it's very dangerous. I don't want to. I don't want to be raised off my hand by the infinite amount of draws out there because I really can't go broke on this flop with Ace King. I mean, you think you have a great hand with top pair, top kicker, but there are so many combinations of hands that have you beat, especially after that turn, that I prefer to play the hand cautiously. And also, you induce bluffs a lot of the time. I mean, maybe Ace Queen will bluff here. I had a hard time with that turn. Was not the turn that I wanted. Obviously, now a 10 has me beat, as well as King Queen, King Jack, Jack Queen, Ace 10, etc., etc. I had a hard time betting this river because I couldn't see him calling with that much that I had beat, but a bet wouldn't have been a bad idea either, though. Oh, I did bet. Oh, and that particular player in the hand, I believe I remember him being solid, so I'll tag him as tight aggressive. Why not? Sometimes I bet here, sometimes I just check. Either way is fine. Or check fold. Player 7 hasn't been very active. Donkey definitely has. He definitely has the aggression to get there. I'm not sure if he's totally a donkey, but he definitely seems to have out of control aggression. I'm referring to Donkey. Yeah, if you Donkey's a trappable player. If you just check him, he'll bet and bet and bet. I'm gonna go ahead and call player 9 weak type. Oh, but then he bluffs in a pretty awful spot to bluff. I actually haven't had a lot of hands, but I like how I've been sort of accumulating so far. Oh, and here are aces. I remember this hand. This kind of made me a little upset at the moment, but I bet, around the pot. He makes a small re-raise. I go all in. He's got an ace-high flush draw. And obviously hits. But one thing that I'm pretty good at in tournaments now is, if you get bad beat, don't freak out. Just keep playing your solid, strong game, and you'll come back. Okay, here's another hand, another big hand with the loose calling station guy. This is pretty good for me. I didn't raise because I was out of position. I'm pretty much going to go broke here with my stack size and all. So I bet the pot thinking he's on a draw. He still calls. and his draw might have hit. However, like a lot of people were like would instinctively check on that river with the draw hitting. However, he's going to put you all in anyway if his draw hits, but you might get value from a lesser jack, like king jack, queen jack, etc. I really don't know what he could possibly be calling on the turn and river and calling the turn and the flop, but folding the river with. But worked out for me. So now I'm back. The loose passive calling station, like from what I've seen, is probably the worst player at the table. He just his bet sizing, he just doesn't seem to know what he's doing very much. The player with the ace two of hearts calling my under the gun raise with ace two of hearts and then getting it in there like that wasn't a strong play either. But that's where I make money. It's actually quite refreshing to play in these tournaments because the level of play is so much worse than like the 100 rebuy or basically any high buying tournament without satellites. Gotta love satellites. Also, the blinds are up, but I still feel pretty comfortable with my stack. We're still in the early stages of the tournament. No reason to get too crazy, out of control. Just, play good poker. Another crazy hand by these two kooky characters. I really should have. If I was really paying a lot of attention, I probably should have been playing more hands with the donkey and the calling station because they're both way too loose, way too aggressive, etc. So donkey's little bets are a little stronger than his big bets. I like the way the tight aggressive player played this hand to control on the button with ace queen over an aggressive player's raise. Checked for pot control, deception, and to try to reach showdown fairly cheaply with a strong but not the best hand. They also got an extra bet out of donkey. Versus an aggressive player like that with a marginal holding, it's best to check behind with a hand like mid pair, I'd say. As you can see, I haven't had unbelievable luck so far. I've actually had kind of bad luck. I think I've just maximized value with a lot of my hands, and also played cautiously when it was best to play cautious. Ace king here. Try to put the short stack. I'm gonna pretty much go all the way with the short stack with ace king. Pre-flop. Pretty standard play, I'd say. Looks like I do not play a lot of hands. My choice of playing fairly tight here probably had something to do with me playing a lot of tables as well. Both kind of trying to get. Actually, I think the reason I played tight is because both of these crazy players had position on me, and I really can't do much as far as raising speculative hands and trying to take over pots. So it was a wise decision of me to play tight. Yeah, player one seems to defend his blind too much, which is a common error that tournament players make. They think they're defending their blind, but they're really just playing pots out of position. I used to do it as well. Well, looks like the donkey on my left is gone, which I'm actually okay with. I think he was really aggressive and could have made my life difficult. So player four is a new player. He's actually a player that I'm slightly familiar with. I remember him being fairly laggy, so we'll see if that turns out to be true. Well, he's gone now. What the heck? Okay, that hand was weird. I'm going to go back there. Okay, so player four is not out. He just got sucked out on. And it was kind of a ridiculous hand. Okay, overbet the pot times 2. And then all in shove by player one on the turn. So I guess his overbet isn't really a very strong hand. These are the little things that I like to notice on people because you can figure out quite a bit by people's patterns and leaks they have by. Also, I'm with the new 200, 400 blinds. I wouldn't say I'm uncomfortable. I have a little less than 30 big blinds or 20M, but I might start wanting to steal and pick up more pots at this point. On a site with a bigger ante, I usually start getting more aggressive when the antes kick in, but I think around 30 or 40 BBs is when I start to pick up in stars tournaments. That's not necessarily true. Okay, I have jacks. I just called because it was an early position raise, also for some deception. Okay. The hand went well. With the Jack's hand, with the open-ended straight draw, I would have gotten it in there, no problem. I pretty much am guaranteed 10 outs most of the time at least, and I could have the best hand. Gamble. I really am a nit, huh? I just tend to win the pots that I'm in. You'll see that I change gears quite a bit, and at some points I'm crazy and I'm re-raising and raising, but at this point in the game, it seems like there's just people who are willing to pay me off with the worst hand. Okay, so now the blinds are getting quite large. If I'm player 7, I push all in with any 2 with that stack. 900 in the middle, you increase your stack by quite a bit. Ace-9 under the gun +1, not the greatest raise. He is definitely a lag. Oh, but he gets saved on the river there. So 10's in the big blind. I like a big raise here. The button limp is never very strong. Or it isn't very often strong. There are some players who will trap there. Just need to get through these hands here. So far, I feel like I have a pretty good idea of how almost everyone plays. Okay, that overbet on the turn there, not good. Not a queen either. Okay, I believe I played this hand and perhaps lose some. Action Jeff, one particular player, actually does not agree with these kinds of raises in early position with pocket pairs, but that may have some merit. I mean, the table's loose, and I'm gonna need a 2 to feel comfortable. A lot of people can go ahead and muck there. I don't like limping with pairs under the gun because it practically screams I have a small pair. But, I mean, you can do that if you also limp with aces, but I'm just not much of a limper in general. I'll switch it up very occasionally with strong players, but I like to enter a pot raising and maximize my chances of winning the hand. Another button limp, but this time I'll let him have it. Oh, wow. I get a little feisty on this hand. Let's see. Let's see my logic behind playing this hand. Okay, he limps on the button again, which I'm not going to challenge since I did last time. Check this. And then I pick up a double gut shot. That's one reason I raise. Also, there's 2,700 in the pot. his bet looks kind of weak, like he has like maybe a 10, and there's just a lot on that board. It's kind of scary, and player one's gonna need a whole lot to call my raise of that from that spot too. I'm representing a lot of strength here. I haven't been very out of line, and if I'm called, I have most likely an 8 or a queen as an out. I don't think that if player two went all in, I would call, though. I wouldn't have odds, first of all. And even if I did have odds for some kind of open-ended straight draw, it's when you have one card to an open-ended straight draw, it's much more likely that you're splitting the pot at best, and it's just not worth it. Pretty obvious. Okay, remember earlier I said player 4 was a very aggressive player, and that he was very laggy and knew who I was as well. So I basically considered his re-raise on the button to be a typical I'm just going to re-raise Apestyles because he's supposed to be aggressive on the button sort of play. And a lot of the times when you're called, a lot of people say don't shove ace rag, this and that, but I really felt like I had a fold. I had fold equity. He had plenty behind to fold with, even though he was getting decent odds. I'm representing a ton of strength. And these are just the kind of plays I make. You'll see I'll make one later on in this tournament as well. A lot of times if you're called, you're probably, when you're called, most of the time a 2-to-1 dog. But you pick up, let's see, 5,100 chips when they fold. So he didn't have to fold that often for it to be a good play. But you can't do it every single time. The timing felt right, and I know this player to be very re-raisy and aggressive and this and that. But he'll need a pretty big hand to call me with here. And he folds. You pretty much got owned. See, that's the kind of stuff I do is I actually play a fairly tight game for the most part, but then when I feel like I can get away with a move here and there, I make it. And I'm loosening up because of the blinds. I can't just, sit on my stack anymore. And you can see that from my play on those last couple hands. Now I kind of like my stack again. I think I might mellow out a little bit. A lot of players will call with their 10-9 suited out of position and think they're being very laggy and Gus Hansen-y or something, but you just really don't have enough chips, and it's a spew to be playing those kinds of hands, especially out of position. That's the Aurora right there. Below above might get mad that I didn't play it. Sometimes I might raise that 9-8 with the limper there. I've been kind of abusing his limps a little bit. Up another blind level. I have king queen. Gonna open up to my normal 2.5 ish, almost 3x raise. Take down a pot. Really don't like the ace tens under the gun +1. By the way, according to PokerXFactor, my luck factor is actually quite low. Right now, I'm not getting a lot of hands. But I like to make my own luck. Just complete, not worth messing around. Especially with versus the lag player. I'm gonna actually have to label him decent lag. I do like my pairs. Okay, I'm doing another calling thing. That's different. Sometimes I raise here. A lot of times. Oh, high flop. I just call. Hoping to induce something from him, and I win a big pot after limp calling a raise. It's reasonable since I had decent implieds and I had position and two other players in the hand. Sometimes I'll just open. I'll raise there. If I'm gonna limp, I almost never open limp. With pairs, I'll limp after a limper. We have a new player, player 9, I'm not familiar with. See, this is interesting because a lot of the times I tend to raise my small pairs because I think that they're hidden better. But in this tournament, it seemed like I was playing them more cautious. I also flat called out of position with 9s rather than wow, I'm just hitting sets left and right, huh? Okay, there. Some players will check raise or check call with a set there. I like to lead into the raiser and try to make them put all their chips in or make a big raise on me because a lot of the times a lead into a raiser is weak. Usually if I lead into a raiser, it's a big hand because they tend to get re-raised a lot. So, and I think that a lot of players will auto re-raise an off-tempo donk bet, as they call them. But versus me, perhaps a better line might have been check call, but he doesn't seem like a too aggressive post-flop player, and there's just a lot of different ways to play that hand. You can check call, you can check raise, you can lead into them. I vary my play. I am a set machine right now, though. I'd say I'm sitting pretty well, actually. Looks like an ante now. The stars ante is kind of a joke, though. especially in this tournament. But there is a little more in the pot. Okay, I'll probably end this session with this particular hand. I have a hand that isn't often very difficult to play. Just oh well, in this spot it was. I chose to flat call here because of the under the gun raise to give away the strength of my hand. If I was to re-raise, it would give away the strength of my hand. Sometimes you can re-raise. Either way is fine. And he overbet shoves the pot. And I actually had to think about it for a while, but I couldn't see him doing that with aces. I could see him doing it with a flush draw. I could not see him doing that with fives full or anything that I didn't have beat. So it seemed to me that a call was the correct play. And I held.